Good morning, and we are back to our live stream classes on Fusion 360 for woodworkers. Today we are sadly again without stable internet connectivity, so we are doing this live to tape, as it were, as if there was actually tape. But what we are going to do this morning is something a little different. We are going to do something that is not quite a standard object. So I'm going to show you how to model a mid-century style block stool. You might have seen one of these. I'm not actually going to model a specific one. I'm going to model one that I do in class. And we'll just get started the same way that we always do, by creating a two-dimensional sketch. So here we go in Fusion 360. We will make sure that we are modeling in perspective with ortho faces by right-clicking on the cube and clicking perspective with ortho faces there. That will give us straight lines, so when we model, we don't have to worry about perspective. Now we're going to click on this button here for Create New Sketch, and I'm going to create that sketch looking forward at the object, because in the case of this stool, it makes more sense to do it that way. Now I'm going to create a line down through the middle, because that is going to be our mirror line. I will click on it and hit X to make it a guide, and click on this button to make it coincident with the origin. And that means it will now turn black, so it knows that it is right there in the middle and I can't drag it over. I can drag it up and down. It doesn't really matter if we drag it up and down. Okay, so now if I create a center point rectangle and I drag it out, I can tell this the outside dimensions of what we want it to be. So I'm going to make the base here. We're only making the base for the moment. And that base is going to be 14 inches wide and 16 inches tall. I will double click on that and make that a guideline as well. Now that we have that boundary, I can drag these ends of this line out, and once they lock in, they're there. So we have a boundary with a mirror line down the center. So now all I have to do is draw the other pieces. If I draw in from one side, across the top, down, over, down again, over, down, and over. I have created a little shape here that is half the base that I'm going to build. We'll talk about joinery in a minute, because we're going to do the joinery as a half lap. But first, let's get some measurements in here. Okay, so this little foot on the left-hand side, we're going to make that 1 3/8 inches wide. This piece at the top, we're going to make also 1 3/8. We can always change these dimensions after. To make this angle, I could measure the angle, or I could just tell it, as woodworkers tend to do, exactly how far in we want it to bend from the top. I'm going to call it 2 1/8 in. That's going to give me an angle here. If you want to see what the angle is, you can hit I or click on this little measuring tool here. And if I click one line, then the other line, it will tell me that is 7.6 degrees. If I wanted to change this, I could change it from being 2 1/8 to 3 1/8. And now I can go back and hit inspect and go between these two, and it will now tell me it is 11.051 degrees, just over 11 degrees. I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Now, I can see that I have defined where this line is and the two short feet. The only thing I need to do now is tell it what to do with these angled indents. So again, I will go to Dimension, I will go in here and I will tell it how far I want these pieces to go in. From here to here. Yes, sorry. From here to here, they're a bit small. What I'm going to do is tell it that this is 120 degrees. I'm going to go down here to the bottom and do the same thing. And because I want these two to mirror, I will go back up to the top and click on the 120 degrees to make them equal. So if I change it, I already know what that's going to be. Now, if that is going to be 120 degrees, it's going to conflict with this angle visually. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to make it parallel with this line here, and they will now both have the same angle. I can copy that angle, and instead of using 120 here at the top, the 120 at the top is probably okay because it doesn't really make any difference. But if I set these two angles, it's going to tell me it is 101.1, but that it is a driven dimension. It's going to calculate it for me. But if I go up here and click on these two lines, I can copy this dimension and hit OK. And now they will both be the same. So the only other thing I have to do is tell it how far up this little indent is going to be and how far down this one is going to be. So between those two lines, that distance is going to be 3/8 of an inch. And on the bottom, we're going to make it 7/8 of an inch up. Now I think that's a little small, so I'm going to change that to 2 3/8 on the bottom. And we now have half our base. If I say Finish Sketch, and I rotate back around to see it, I can click on the Extrude tool, change this to be symmetric, and make that distance 5/8, which will give us 1 1/4 as a thickness for that base. For the moment, that is what we need to model. Now, we're going to be attaching these together with half laps. We're going to have two pieces that look like this, and a base on top. And we're going to attach the top using 4 dowels. So at the moment, I think what we're going to do is model the 4 dowels, because we can just model 1 dowel at the moment, and it will be enough. So I will say New Sketch, and click on the top face here. I will scroll in and draw a little line from one end of the top face to the other. Click on it and hit X to turn it into a guide line. I'll draw a little circle, find the midpoint so that triangle pops up, and draw a circle. I will hit Dimension and tell it how big the circle is going to be. It's going to be a 5/8 inch dowel, and it is right there. So why is it not stopping? Because the line, I didn't quite get it on the midpoint. And now you can see that it is right through both midpoints, and that this is in the center, so it is fully defined and black. Fully defined means it knows exactly where it is in space. So I'm going to go back here and click Extrude, click on the circle, and I will say that it is going to go in 2 different dimensions, 2 different directions. 2 sides. In the up direction, it will go 1/2 inch. In the bottom direction, it will go 3 inches. So it is a 3.5 inch dowel. We will say New Component. Okay. We're going to open up the Bodies folder here and again create a component from this one. So the first component is the dowels, and the second component is the base. And now what we'll do is we will combine these, modify combine, and I will cut the base with the dowel and keep the tools. because the dowel is the tool. When I hit OK, I can turn off the dowel, and I can see that I have made a hole in the base that is exactly the right size for the dowel and the right shape. So we have half a base. Let's click the mirror tool. Make sure we select bodies. Select the body, click on the plane, and duplicate it across the center, and it will join, which is OK. Now, we're going to want to flip this around. We want to turn it 90 degrees, and because we're going to use the mirroring tool, what I want to do is I want to create a new plane at an angle. I want this angle to be 45 degrees, because when you mirror at 45 degrees, the 45 and 45 together make you 90 degrees. So I will click on this vertical axis here, and I will drag this over to be 45 degrees. And hit OK. You can see that little yellow plane that we have there. Now if I hit mirror and click on my body, then I select mirror plane, I will have to turn the base off so I can see this little plane in here, and I will pick it. So I can now turn the base back on, but instead of join, I want them to be two separate bodies, because a body is like a piece of wood. When you have multiple pieces, you can have them collected into a component, but now we have two bodies, and we have one dowel. We only have one, but we have 4 dowel holes. So let's duplicate our dowel. I'll show you a different way of doing it. When I say create pattern, circular pattern, I can say bodies, copy this object, and rotate it around the center axis. It tells me I've got 3 of them. If I change it to 4, now I get 4 equally spaced around the center, and that is why we model around the center as much as possible. And I now have 4 dowels. Okay, so if I turn the dowels off, I can see the 4 holes, and I don't have to make any more holes there. The only thing we want to do now with this base that we haven't already done is create the half lap joinery. Now, the interesting part about the half lap joinery is that what we need to do is split both bodies right down the center. They're going to slide into each other. There are other ways that you could attach these together, but I think this is going to be the easiest. So if I say I want to split one body, and I select the splitting tool to be the 2 outside faces of the other one, I'm going to be cutting it into 3 parts, and hit OK. So now I have the right part, the left part, and the middle part. I can turn off one of these bodies. There we go. I still see the dowels, which doesn't really matter. But now I could see I have 3 distinct pieces to this one. But that's not enough. I need to cut away either the top or the bottom. So what I will do is I will split the middle section using the flat plane that goes right through the middle, and that will cut it in half. And I will say OK. Now I should be able to pick this top section, which is body 5, and remove it. Now I go back and I say combine, and I will combine these 3 bodies together to join, and I don't need to keep the tools. And say OK. Now I have the bottom part of the half lap. I can turn the other body back on, and if I cut the other body with the one that we just cut the piece into, and say keep the tools, I will now have one with a hole in the top and another with a hole in the bottom that exactly mates. And that is the base of our stool. Now the only thing we need to do is create the top. So if I click on this new sketch, and I go back to the basic plane, what I want to do is create a round top, starting in the center, just by creating a circle. I click to dimension, and I tell this that it is going to be 17 inches in diameter, and hit Finish Sketch. If I now hit Extrude and click on this circle, I can tell it to start, not from the profile plane, but from the object, that is, the top face of any of these pieces. I will say New Component, and I will tell it exactly how thick I want it to be. I want it to be 1 3/8 inches thick, and hit OK. And we now have our stool. The only thing that I'm going to do with this now is I will create a few nice little chamfer details on it. If I hit chamfer and click on the top and side of this, what I will do is, actually no, I'm going to chamfer the top and side differently. In true mid-century style, I will chamfer the top at 1/4 inch in both directions, and I will chamfer the bottom, instead of equal distances, I will chamfer it at 1/4 inch by 1 inch. 1 inch? Oh, I'm going in the wrong direction. 1 inch by 1/4 inch. There we go. We'll actually make this 3 inches by 1/4 inch. That's why it wouldn't take it when I typed 3 in before. And that will make the base feel like it is floating considerably much more above the top, because it'll give us some height. I don't actually like the look of that chamfer on the top, so I'm going to go back. I don't have to undo everything. I can just right-click on the chamfer on the top and get rid of it. The bottom one, again, doesn't seem like it works, so we'll get rid of that as well. And this is how we model trial and error. We see what we like, we see what we don't, and I will add a fillet on the top and the bottom. We will give it a 1/4 inch round over and hit OK, and that looks so much nicer. What I think we're going to do is we're going to match that on the bottom. So I will go in here again. I could have done this before duplicating, or I can do it now after duplicating. And I will select the two edges. If you select the wrong thing, just click on the X. I'll select the two edges of each one of these pieces. And I will again give that a 1/4 inch round over and hit OK. And now those edges are rounded over. Are they rounded over? Yes. Hard to see with the model, but they are indeed rounded over on the edges, I think. That is what it is, right? Yes? Rounded over on the edges. Very good. Okay. So this is a mid-century piece, so we're probably going to want to go in here to Appearance, just hit A, and make this actually from walnut. And it's that simple. But we're not going to use walnut for our pegs. We're going to use, probably, maple for our pegs. So we'll go in here and change our dowels to maple, and hit OK. I'm just going to rename my component here to top, so we are nice and accurate with everything. If I look up here, we have a nice little stool, and if I turn the top off, you can see those maple dowels, and that's pretty much it. It's a very simple little project. I think it's quite cute. I think the angle is a little off maybe from what we were working for, so let's see what we can do to fix that up. I'm going to turn off that plane that we have in the middle, and I'm going to go back in here, and this is the beauty of parametric modeling. I can go back and change any of these things that I want it to be later. So I think this angle is a little wrong. I want it to be a much narrower base at the top. So I'm going to call this 4 7/8 and hit Finish Sketch. And now we have a much steeper angle, and that base is now a little too far toward the middle. So I'll go back and I will change the same thing again to 4 1/8. I really need to learn how to type in imperial measurements, it seems, and I think that looks dramatically better. We now have a nice little stool. I think the feet are a little high off the bottom. So I will hit Finish Sketch, and again, I think this sort of shows off that mid-century aesthetic. Will it be the most comfortable stool? Well, maybe not. But when you have a little stool like this, I think it will definitely set off the other things around. If you have a few of these, they're great little decorations. Anyway, um, I hope that has been informative and helped you today to learn something about the modeling that we're doing here. We're going to go back to something a little more traditional. We're going to be doing some angled cuts and dovetails on a splined stand and a splined table in our next classes. So please feel free to come back and join us. If you do want to see those, you can subscribe to this channel and ring the bell so you get a notification when we go live or when we upload a new video, which are recorded live, like this one, or sometimes they are full class tutorials. Please like, and if you don't like, of course, you can hit dislike, but I think if you've gotten this far, you probably like the channel anyway. If you don't like it, please let us know why, but either way, leave a comment down below to tell us what you have gotten out of this video or what you would like to have gotten out of this video that you didn't, and I will see what I can do about answering your questions. It really helps us a lot to provide quality content if you share on your social media and with your friends. And without further ado, I will leave you to get back to modeling and building in your own shop, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.